Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Conquer the Competition series at IIFT. Today we have with us the national runner-up of the Loreal Sustainability Challenge 2021, Tushang Shivam, Anushka Singh and Ashay Raj.
So tell us about the competition. How was it structured?
I'll start. So basically, the competition was broken up into three stages. First stage, when we had to submit a 3-slider PPT about the problem that was given, and the problem was you have to find a more sustainable way to basically make Career a more greener company. After that, some 100 people were selected for the second round. For the second round, we had to expand the entire 3-slider PPT into a 10-slider PPT to expand the idea of the same. And finally, after that, we had to come to the national finals where 10 teams were selected, and we had to present the final PPT to the judges that were assigned by L'Oreal, very senior executives. So that was the entire structure of the competition.
And in between the second and the third round, we had mentorships in which they taught us how to make that final PPT, which was in front of the entire top management of L'Oreal India.
Right. So one of the most important aspects of any competition is the presentation itself because it ends and it begins with that. So keeping that in mind, what do you think are the main points, the important points someone should keep in mind while making that presentation?
Before starting the presentation itself, you have to think about what the exact problem is. And you have to do a lot of research on how you want to actually showcase the understanding of the problem that you have. So that usually becomes your first slide of the PPT on what you think the problem is. And then the survey that you do with people who will be touched upon, the stakeholders basically. And then once that understanding has been presented, then you go on defining the problem and what your solution is and how feasible your solution is. That the feasibility could be the financial part of it and how it will be implemented. And the PPT should revolve around a central solution. What happens is when you're thinking about a problem, there are n numbers of solutions that you have in mind. But the companies are usually looking for one single solid solution. And then the PPT should revolve around that.
I think when you're making a PPT, the most important aspect is to look at the case study very well. Like you have to be 100% thorough with what the case is actually asking you. Most of the times you get your answer over there only. Now you have to add upon that the numbers. You always have to back your whatever data, whatever you put on the slides, it always has to be backed by numbers and as many real-time data that you can collect for your presentation. I think apart from that, you also need to keep in mind that you should have one hero idea and then other ideas to support that hero idea. So I think that is very important when you have to make your presentation. And I think as Ashay said, aesthetics and everything, they become secondary. But if your idea is good, that can like you can easily clear rounds even if your idea is not very aesthetic, but it's practical, it's supported by data, and it is exactly giving you what the case study wants you to give.
So guys, what I understand is going on a central idea, creating a story kind of a thing can help your PPT. But you also talked about the research. Can you give some insight like what kind of primary or secondary research you have done? Or what should be the amount of primary or secondary research in our presentation?
I think when we present our ideas for the competition, we always, most of the times we are in a bubble. We think jo hum soch rahe, what we are thinking is the right thing to do. But I think that has to be backed by what the customers really want. So I think that is the point where primary survey becomes extremely important. You try to interview people or you float a questionnaire or whatever, and you actually need to know what I am thinking, do the customers really want it? Or whether I am in a bubble, because when you are in a B school, we are often surrounded by people who think like us, who are like us, and we think that, chalo, if we are okay over here, that is what we think. But India is mainly made up of a very diverse population, and in knowing people from all ages, all income structure, we get to know what the real India thinks. So I think primary survey is very important in that, and secondary survey is like reading lots and lots of papers published by McKinsey and published by Kantar and so many other organizations. And mainly doing a competitive research is also very important. What other companies are doing in that industry so that you get to know where is my significant company lagging behind. So I think competitive research and competitive benchmarking is extremely important. That gives you an idea ki, okay, this is something that I can also add in my final presentation. So
in our case, we were actually doing secondary research till the second last day as well. Right before the presentation in front of the top management, we were still doing secondary research, getting an idea of how we can speak about it in a better way and what their expectations are.
And I think where our idea stood out was the executability. That our idea was actually executable, and L'Oreal company could actually benefit, and the entire customer base could actually benefit from the idea that we had. So to do that research, I know that we had to dig out some really credible numbers. Like if we have to say put a new kiosk at a mall, we have to actually call up the malls and ask what are the rates that we can actually put for per square footage of the mall that we can put up kiosk. And one important thing is that like there are many topics where we might not know good about, like some e-commerce website, we might not know how to put that. So you can also reach out to your professors or your alumni. They might help you to actually understand how the things actually work at the ground level, and they might help you to get better primary as well as secondary research.
You usually understand how scalable your idea is after you do that thorough primary research. For example, in our particular case, what happened was the main solution was that we'll provide refill bottles and refill stations for all Garnier products. But when we went out into the field, we realized that the Indian customer is really price sensitive and they cannot afford to buy an aluminum bottle every time they purchase a Garnier product. So that's when we realized that we can also offer a refill pouch for the same, which should be cheaper than the aluminum bottle. And that thing really stood out in our presentation, and it only came through primary research. So you have to realize that in that case, research is really important.
So that sounds like a lot of effort, many days of research. And in MBA, everyone has this propensity to leave everything to the last minute the day before. So if you could give us a rough idea of when you start actually working on a problem, like what is the kind of timeline, how many days it takes, just a brief idea about that.
Our advice or my advice would be to start as early as you can. Don't be like the assignments ki, okay, we can do it in the last day. Because you don't understand that there are a lot of people who are, if not more, as passionate as you, and they are giving it their all to get into. Like for us also in the second round, 7 or 8 teams even from IIFT went till the second round because they were more passionate, or even at least as passionate as us. I think even more passionate than us too, because this is a very prestigious competition. Everyone wants to win it. So if you are not putting your best foot forward, then you probably won't make it ahead. So I think for us, we like worked very hard.
Yes, you have to give it all. Like there might be so many competitions floated by the committee, that this competition, that competition. We have to zero in on one competition that you really, really want to crack, and you have to put all your efforts into that. Like our time also, there were so many competitions were being floated, but we just thought, no, we just want to go ahead with L'Oreal. Let's just give our 100% to it, and that's what we did. So yeah.
So coming to the very last question, any tips and tricks like you want to share for the juniors or upcoming batch?
From my side, it would be that don't be afraid to work hard, and don't think about ki there are 15,000 registrations. Like in our case, there were 15,000 registrations, 800 colleges. So don't think ki who will look at our presentation, or what if we don't win. For us, it was not like that. We were like, चलो next round में पहुंच जाते तब देखते हैं, उसके next round में पहुंच जाते तब देखते हैं, top 10 में भी चले गए तो अच्छा बात है. We were of that mindset. In my case, I was in the middle of an internship, and it was an offline internship, and I used to work 12 to 13 hours on the field for my internship and then come back and work for L'Oreal. So I think you need to give it your all if you want to like win or do anything substantial in the competition. Otherwise, there's no point in wasting even half an hour if you don't want to go till the very end.
I personally think that getting your team right is the most important part, and it's the first thing that you can do. You know that someone might be good at making presentations, someone might be good at numbers, someone might be good at speaking, and someone might be good at aesthetics. So you have to get all of that in mind, because you have a limit of 3 people in your team. So you have to get people who are ready to work hard and who have different strengths. You don't want the same person on the team.
Yes, I'll fully agree with what Anushka and Tushang said. I just want to add one point that yes, you might think that we might think that there are so many competition, there are so many participants, and we might think that even the HRs might not even look at our PPTs. But even we used to think like that. But like, trust me, I mean, if you are doing really good at your work, if your PPT is actually fine, they will actually notice your PPT and will go to the next round.
And one final tip would be, even if it's not required in the presentation, do make your financials. It'll give you an idea of how feasible your idea is.
Guys, one final thing would be key, always focus on learning, even if you're not winning something. I think in our case, we learned so much about marketing, we learned so much about sales and how the entire distribution channel works through this competition. So even if you're not winning, always try to learn something out of the entire experience. It will always help you in your next competition.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for a very, very insightful session and sharing the journey with us. It's definitely going to inspire a lot.